Did you feel yourself warming to film as a technique, to film performance?
I never really cared that much. And I think if you don't care, then you can take the kind of chances that can consolidate your position.
Did you care about acting?
Probably not. I care about all of the peripheral things that go into acting. I care about the rehearsals. I care about tearing down the script. I care about making terribly cerebral judgments about the directions in which a character may go. The actual performing, the actual getting up and having someone shout action and put a placard in front of you and then doing your job is very, very dull. All the preliminary things are interesting.
Can you give us examples of, say, parts that are close to you and have needed relatively little work?
Butch needed very little work. Graziano needed a lot of work. The part in The Outrage needed a lot of work. The primitives basically need more work with me than the sophisticated people. I think by the time I got to New York from Yale, I was still probably pretty much what I would call an oratorical actor. And most of my training had been in the academic world and very much removed from what was the operational theater then. And I wanted to audition for the Actors Studio, and I couldn't get an audition, but there was a young lady who had auditioned before and had passed her first audition, but her second audition, her partner had gotten a job, so he couldn't appear for the second audition, and she asked if I could perform with her, and it was a scene from
it's Battle of Angels, wasn't it?
Battle of Angels, which was called The Fugitive Kind in the film. And I was so frightened when I got out on stage that they mistook it for anger and they asked me to join.
You are coupled, as you are often coupled in print, with James Dean and Marlon Brando. Do you regard that as a compliment or a piece of really myopia on the part of the writer, that the three of you are and were very different?
Funny story. When I was asked to do Graziano, I studied with Graziano. We almost lived together for 3 or 4 weeks. Boxing, going around, seeing what the south side of Manhattan, where he was born, the guys that he grew up with, all of that. And I tried very hard to put at least my version of Graziano on the screen. They accused me of imitating Marlon Brando. Subsequently, I don't know, a year later or so, Rocky and I were sitting around drinking beer together, and I mentioned Marlon's name, and he said, "Oh, that's one of the stories that I forgot to tell you. I kept noticing when I was sparring that there was this kid that was sitting there with a sketch pad and so forth, and he kept watching me for a year, and we chatted this or that. I never knew the kid, never knew what he was doing, said he was an actor. I thought he was a spear carrier in some Shakespearean production. What do I know?" So finally, I didn't see him for a long time, and he came back and said, "I'd like you to come and see this production that I'm doing on Broadway." And I said, "Well, sure, what are you, a musical? What is it, you know?" Well, it was Streetcar Named Desire. And what had happened, of course, that Marlon and I had both the same basic character that we were dealing with. He had taken Rocky and put him up on the stage in the streetcar, and I put him up on the screen, and somebody up there likes me.
Described yourself as cerebral, unlike Joanne, whom you've described as intuitive. You've said some people are born intuitive actors and have the talent to slip in and out of characters. Acting to me is like dredging a river. It's a painful experience. I simply do not have the intuitive talent. I worry about acting and constantly complain to myself about my own performance. Perhaps you can expand on that a bit. There's a difference, of course, between intuitive acting and cerebral acting. How do you see yourself falling on one side rather than the
Well,
other?
I hope I've now fallen into the other river, but this doesn't fall into the area of self-deprecation either, which is not mandatory. I don't know the things that I have a gift for except tenaciousness. And I always wanted to be a jock, and I skied and boxed and wrestled and played football badly, all badly. I could only dance with one person, that was Joanne. I could never dance with anybody else. And I had no physical grace, and the only thing that I ever found any grace in was an automobile, which I guess is why I got hooked on that. And I never felt that I had any gift at all to perform. But it was something that I wanted badly enough that I just, I kept after it. And someone asked me once, liken yourself to a dog. And I thought, terrier. And as a matter of fact, my dog Harry right now, he knows how to work over a bone. And I think that's a pretty accurate assessment of the way I worked. And I, of course, was very resentful of the people who had an instinctive and an intuitive direction for themselves, and whose instrument was readily available to them, and whose life experience prepared for them for that. But mine didn't seem to, and you know, to try to find out what it took to make me available and accessible, I guess, was the largest trajectory that I had to travel. And it didn't, and it's just recent, actually, I think.
That you've arrived where you wanted to go?
Yeah. I don't like watching my early films at all. Some worse than others. But
You're not knocking the silver chalice, are you?
Well, I think I'm the only guy that ever took an advertisement out in the Los Angeles Times with a funeral wreath around it, apologizing for what was happening on NBC at 8 o'clock. Well, if I could be a competitive automobile driver, I'd chuck this in a minute. But aside from that, no, I'm doing what I like to do. And, there are some liabilities, but in the long run, it's been very good to me.